Hi, I wanted to make a film called Why I Made Herpes Dude film series. So, Herpes Dude film series is a four-part video in which I discuss the strange predicament of being hit on and propositioned by a person you thought was a acquaintance guy friend, who is then propositioning you with his herpes and making a lot of arrogant assumptions and proceeding to corner, grope, and eventually pin you down in a frightening pose, pressing his erection on me. I'm the victim of this. And it was sort of like my attempt to work through every single detail I could remember and try to understand what my responsibilities were, what my fears were. Underlying it is the fact that the guy I see has a 20-year-old daughter. I'm not her mother. I would never pretend to be her mother or her stepmom per se. But I feel an imminent and impending sense of duty that if I, as a 40-year-old woman, can't deal with this situation and can't educate or make something positive out of it, what kind of role model could I possibly be? Like, oh, I should just let this guy attack me. And say I was like a stepmom, and she has a baby, and so therefore a step grandma. What kind of guy attacks a grandmother? What kind of guy forces himself on a grandmother? What kind of guy intimidates a grandmother? And in a lot of ways, I felt like why I made Herpes Dude the film was specifically for the younger generation of kids in their teens, in their 20s, who might be having sex, who might feel fearful. And of course, in my naive optimism, I hope that people who have herpes can learn some better behavior, because nobody should be assaulting anyone, ever. But when you also have a disease that you declare, I think a part of the you need to take a special concern for the psychological terror of your victim. And the inappropriate sharing of his herpes information was in the context of me confronting him about leading on my best friend. I was able to ascertain that he was still sleeping with his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, and that meanwhile he was convincing my best friend that they were dating. And I only thought of him as a potential boyfriend of my best friend. So when I sought to interrogate him, there had been little sneaky clues that he had been flirtatious or hinting at something with me. So in some ways, I think I wanted to get to the bottom of that too. So it's kind of like me to force things to a head. And what I saw was some pretty gnarly behavior. And I never felt very good about him after that. I felt distinctly disgusted by everything about him. I found him evasive and rude. I found him narcissistic, arrogant, presumptuous, and I'm particularly offended by the fact that he works with seniors and disabled people, and that he would comport himself in that way when he'd bragged immensely about his job and that he's the only one that gets paid and he's got this great program that he's trying to help all these seniors. And what I came to find out this week when I contacted Mary Blake, who helped establish the whole rec center complex over there, sports facilities, he's now an employee of Northwest Senior and Disability Services, which is the county, Clatsop County Aging and Disability group. And I looked on their job listings. They actually require you to be well acquainted with the concept of a mandatory reporter. And a mandatory reporter would report any suspected child abuse, sexual abuse, elder abuse, financial abuse of an elder, or anything dangerous, life-threatening, sick, demented, twisted, sexual, predatory in nature. So how can someone who is hired to be a mandatory reporter, say for instance in a Northwest Senior and Disability Services Meals on Wheels program that is run out of the Sunset Empire Recreation District of Seaside, Oregon, at the Bob Chisholm meal site, how can that director be a mandatory reporter if he cannot control his instinct to sexually harass me, grope me, and after I tell him he's acting like an abuser, proceed to pin me down and force his erection on me and restrict my arms and my limbs? That was a sexual assault. The thing I am most perplexed by, which I discussed with Mary Blake, is that I do now realize his behavior was grooming, that this impending friendship and all the deals, he offered me a job for Coast Radio, DJ show, you could be on my show, and oh, I could be your roommate, I could pay rent, I'll take you to this picnic, like these sort of constant refrain of offers. I was feeling sketched on him to begin with. I didn't want to get in a car with him thinking he might be a partier because he offered me marijuana to begin with. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. You're some old Gen Xer who works with seniors. Let's see if my tea is good. So anyway, why I made herpes dude. STD education. I looked up a court case for infliction of herpes on someone where you don't tell them. It's kind of unusual in a sense because he told me he had it in this too much information. I think if you as a social worker in a professional context, you've offered me a professional opportunity to work on the radio, you are dating my best friend, we're hanging out, I'm kind of like, what's with your like flirtatiousness towards me? And then he's all just like, boom, I have herpes, I would sleep with you. And I felt distinctly sick. I felt panicked. Like, why is he saying he would sleep with me? I didn't ask for that. And all the ways, many ways I said no and tried to curtail his impending disrespectful attitude. It was sort of like if someone's speeding and then they're just getting faster and faster. He was getting gropier and gropier and creepier and creepier. And I blame myself a lot for how much I put up with it. And I think that's because I am an open-minded person. I don't have any problems with polyamory or people who have open relationships or anything. I don't judge. I'm currently not in that situation, and due to the fact that he was so extremely disrespectful and hurtful and then violent, he's not the kind of person I would be into. And furthermore, I told him I don't want anything other than what I have. I'm good. Like, I'm full up. And I said to Mary Blake, I don't have to have a boyfriend for him to respect me. Women deserve respect anyway. Like, just whether or not they have their male comptroller. So, girls out there are getting assaulted by social service workers who use their bona fides, their credentials, their big city government job to try to seduce you and rub their junk on you against your will. Call the police right off. Educate the police. If the police don't get it, ask for a different one. Ask for their boss. Ask for the lady cop. And the thing, I wanted to talk to the lady cop last October, and I told his coworker, the lady, she didn't really get it or wasn't ready to get it. And we get burnout. We've dealt with enough creeps, okay? Like, we've dealt with enough creeps. You're just like creep number 66 or something. Like, it gets exhausting, like full-time creep management. And I don't even think I'm all that special, pretty, or attractive. Like, I don't get it. Why I have to deal with so many creeps? I think it is because I'm basically independent. Men hate that. They want to get revenge against that. So I saw the creep at the grocery store, oh my god, like 30 hours ago. And what's kind of amazing is because I'm talking to Mary Blake, and I made my little testimony. Whether or not they do anything with it, they say they will. I have sort of I'm washing my hands of it. I'm doing everything I can do. I've made my movies, I've made my blogs, I've written my poetry. I'm getting it out of my system. My poor, sweet darling. And I finally really, really talked about it because it basically upsets him so much he can hardly. He's like spitting feathers, basically. And I'm not blaming myself. And furthermore, I did all the right steps for me, which are to get to safety, to move, to send a very, very strong signal of FU. And I continue to send that. And furthermore, now I think my next role that I've figured out for myself is to be a big mouth. And anyone I run into who's a senior, run that by them. Like everybody at Spay Neuter Thrift Shop. Whoever this guy was, I ran into this cool dude. Oh, Bob Dunton. He said he's been excluded from the senior Meals on Wheels because he has a hearing impairment. So there's also disability discrimination going on there. And basically sexually harassing me at my disabled housing, predatorily, where you work for a social services agency for aging and disabled. Like, how sick is that? How sick is that? I just feel somewhat regret that I didn't get things moving immediately. I knew the day after, I was like, oh, you could lose your job over what you just did last night. That's interesting. And then maybe I was trying to cover for him, but now that I realize I just lay in wait like Year of the Snake, I realize I had to get myself to a point of advantage. Because it's not really fun blasting into a new town being like, hi everybody, sexual harassment. I really needed to feel secure. And we don't like forming and shaping our identities through our abusers, through our gropers, through those betrayals. It was a betrayal of that which seemed to be a promising friendship, which I have accused him of sabotaging. Now I just realize it was formal con artist grooming. This is the difference between being a groomable kid and a sage, wise woman who is just calling major BS. And I was calling his BS. I could tell you're sleeping with your girlfriend, you're leading my best friend on, that's after. He wouldn't even talk to her. I was like, you need to talk to her. You're wrecking her mind. And in a sense, the fact that I was confronting him on what he was doing for my best friend, even if she doesn't like that I did it, or she hoped I wouldn't, or whatever, pretty much maybe that's why he's attacking me. Is he doesn't want to be confronted on his con artistry and the fact that he's serially breaking women's hearts and hurting them and abusing them and playing mind games with them. He doesn't want to be confronted on that. So maybe that's why he has to assault me. When I said, but I trust you, that's where I feel like an actual idiot. After he assaulted me, I stood up, he released me, and I said, but I trust you. I trust him. And I meant I trusted you past tense. And that's over. There's no reason to trust him. There was a lot of familiarity. He looked like an old friend who was a really nice guy. He looks a lot like my brother. He's got like a lot of middle America bourgeois, white bread kind of boringness that is overly neutral. And as he was assaulting me, I thought, is he one of those guys who seems really neutral and boring and decent and respectable on the outside, but is actually going to be like a psychopathic killer who kills me? I'm like literally above and beyond, will he rape me or give me his herpes or impregnate me? I was thinking, will he kill me? That's not a good place to be. And this was not a date. I was hanging out with him and Brenda on these weird double girl dates, which I don't know if it's because he's a polygamist or he was really just trying to use my best friend to get to me, or use me to hurt my best friend, or use us both to hurt his other girlfriend, or whatever. It was strange. I didn't like being used that way. Ugh. And okay, say you have a position in authority, like in some 9-to-5 job for the government. Maybe you don't want to just be pouncing on people saying you have herpes. Maybe that is not like a good weekend protocol. I sort of think he has some kind of mental problem. Not to say I'm his defense attorney or anything, but I think there's something severely wrong with him where I wouldn't trust him with anything. I kind of wonder what else he's doing or done. Like, is he ripping off the system? Is he abusing someone else? Is he in the middle of stalking and abusing his ex? Or what's he doing? What's he doing? Who knows? But I reported it. Herpes dude sexually propositioned me. The couple of times I saw him afterwards, I tried to get to grips with it. I tried to confront him. Okay, so you were really out of control. What was up with that? Oh, horseplay. DQC. Oh, roughhousing. And next time I tell him you were really out of control, you can't be like that. He's still, I don't know, can I still hang out with you? Like a glommed on little schoolboy. I think I was still susceptible to his intelligence because I love talking politics. And that's where I was really hoodwinked. He's saying, oh, can I give you oral sex? Pinning me up against a wall, kind of like putting his mouth all over my neck. And I remember just, at that point I didn't think he would rape me because I think I had completely laid down the law. So this is like a different, I'm adjusting to his level of creepiness is what was happening. But I remember thinking, God, he's not going to change. I can't change him. I can't fix him. So I just moved. That was a nice big F you. And I guess I assume we might still be friends, other than I didn't really feel safe around him. I felt creeped out by him, and he lectured me after he was like flirting with his coworker really hard. He lectured me about, oh, she can never know about my personal life. I'm like, your personal life where you're assaulting me, leading my best friend on, abusing your ex, playing demeaning, degrading songs on the radio, welfare mothers make better lovers, to harass her via your DJ gig that you're using to try to pick up chicks. You can like rough them up and then use that as some kind of collateral in your World War III with your ex, which is just utterly creepy. Ugh. Gross. He is so gross. So I saw him in the grocery store, and I just go like, I can't be here. I gotta go to George. Evidently, he gives some weird look at George. I go hide in the flowers. I see him walking along. Ugh, his shoes, his legs. Ugh. I wanted to like scream at him, but I contained myself. I didn't call him you creepy pervert in front of the Rite Aid. But, and supposing I did and someone called the cops on me, I'd just be like, oh yeah, he's under investigation for an assault. I have no idea why the Astoria police are just backburnering it, other than maybe he bribed them. Did he bribe them? Possibly. He might be all cozy like that. Or maybe Northwest Senior and Disability Services has some like inside agreement. We'll see. So the moral of the story is, Being upfront and open with your herpes diagnosis with a potential partner does not include harassing women who don't want to have anything to do with you in that way about your diagnosis. So like there's a difference. You have to like actually ascertain if someone's interested in you in that way versus springing this data and then attacking them. Okay? So the attack was wrong and the springing of the herpes data on me. It's way too much information, overburdening, oversharing. It's not my business. The sound of wood incense smells nice.